This is your Instagram. How do I?
No, it's not my Instagram. It's your Instagram.
Hello, hello, hello.
Oh,
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are just prepping real quick. I hope you can see the chat on the right-hand side corner of your screen. Please use it to let us know where you're logging in from. Welcome. Good evening to everybody in South Africa, in Kenya. Good day to everybody on the West Pacific Standard Time. How is everyone doing? We are just getting ready to start in a little bit. Please let me know. Oh, Tokyo. Wow. Pretoria, Kenya. How's everyone doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, you're looking from Johannesburg. All right, so we do recommend, I'll be touching on this a little bit later, but we do recommend logging in from a laptop or a desktop just for a much, much better user experience. But if you also want to use your phone, that's perfectly okay with us. Welcome, habari zenu, everybody from Kenya, Sambonani, all of my South African people. We have an exciting class for you guys today on how to bootstrap a digital startup in Africa. This is a topic that is very close to me because A, I'm a co-founder of a startup, and B, I get asked all the time, why haven't you gotten funding yet? But I think the biggest question is, what happens when you haven't gotten funding? Does that mean that you're just not going to live out your dream? So I will be sharing different ways that Vuuqa has been capitalizing on our skills just to be able to grow and get to where we are today. And I hope you will find the class useful. There's a poll showing up on your screens. There's a button for polls. And it's essentially, I hope you can see it, it's essentially asking which of these describe you the best. I just want to know, I want to have a feel of who is in the room. So one of the options is, I want to start a business in Africa. That means you haven't started yet, but this is in your plans. The other is, I'm looking to invest in Africa. So that would be, you would be coming in to probably fund, you already live in Africa, that's fine, or you're part of the diaspora community and you're looking to fund and invest in the continent. Then there's one for, I've started a business in Africa within the past couple of years. And the last one is, if you're just here to learn, that's okay as well. So please use this time right now to answer on the poll and let us know who's in the room. You want to start a business. Cool. Just here to learn. Nice stuff. Thank you guys. Your votes are coming in. I can see them live. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, can you see the screen? expand into the rest of Africa. Hi, Tumi, welcome. There's a delay. Cool. All right, guys, we are going to get started. As I said, if you're coming in, just let us know where you're logging in from, and also fill in the poll just so that we can have a sense of what's going on in the room. But I will get started right now. Welcome to How to Grow and Bootstrap a Digital Startup in Africa. I am Horesia Nyawade and I will be your host today. The class is approximately 90 minutes, but it will be as interactive as possible. So I'm hoping that you will stay with me. Here's an outline on what to expect. We'll go through a little bit of housekeeping, but that will be quick, and jump right into understanding African startups, just so that we get a sense of what they are, and it will help us understand the rest of the class a little bit easier. There'll be a short 5 minutes for some activities and questions. Then we'll head on over to identifying digital market opportunities in Africa. This is great for all the people who are looking to start a business and just kind of don't know where to start or what kind of industries they should get into. This specific section will be great for you. And then there'll be yet another opportunity for activity and questions, and then we'll get into the real knack of things, which is bootstrapping in an African context. So what is that? How does it look like? What can you do? And that will take up a bulk of our time. And then obviously, as we like to do at Vuuqa, we will be using the example of a case study, just so that we can apply all the lessons that we've had, and finally end our night with any questions. Again, as I said, use the chat box to ask anything while we're speaking. There's also a question button that you can put up there. My team will also be monitoring your comments, and let me know as we're going through what can come. A little bit of an introduction. My name is Horesia Nyawade. I am the co-founder of Vuuqa, and I'm also the chief innovator here. Little personal things about me. I like hiking, fitness, and I'm very, very passionate about the continent. And this is why I'm here, sharing some of my knowledge from my personal experiences and just from my walk in life. And I hope you guys benefit from it. Technical tips, as I said earlier, please use your laptop or desktop for a better user experience. Any of the browsers from Chrome, Firefox, Android, iOS would work. To give you more clarity, please try and close the rest of your tabs just so that you don't get any kind of distractions. And maybe if you're at home with a lot of people, you might want to use your earphones to avoid any distractions. Some of you might get a chance to be called up on the camera to come and speak or ask questions. So when that happens, please look presentable. Don't have to wear a suit, just look presentable. All right, are we ready? Let's get into it. Cool. The first thing we're going to look at is understanding African startups. So let us start with just defining and breaking down what a startup is, right? And according to Investopedia, the term startup refers to a company in the first stage of its operations. And startups are founded by one or more entrepreneurs who want to develop a product or service for which they believe there is a demand. So the key word there is a demand. If you are busy trying to develop a product that nobody needs, then I don't know if this startup definition will work for you. All right, let's go into just a little bit of theory. And I really like this diagram right here because it kind of shows you a very different view of startup life. Because a lot of the times I think we hear the word, but we don't understand how does a startup turn from like just an idea and ends up being this huge company with employees and making like real big moves in the economy. And most companies don't start out big. They actually start from a startup. So this is part of the normal theory language of startups when you go into school, but I will walk you through it. So I would like for you guys to listen up so that you can also just identify where you are within these stages. So the first stage is ideation. This is the conception or the birth of new startups. At ideation, you essentially are just thinking, wouldn't it be great if we had X? Or wouldn't it be nice if there was this kind of solution? That's kind of the birthplace of most startups. That's where it starts. Some people get funded at ideation because their ideas are just that great that people are willing to risk and invest in them and give them money to bring that idea to life. And then the stage 2, which is the startup stage. This is where the startup is born and now it exists legally in the country or the nation that it is functioning in. The actual services or products that are in production, and most times it's your MVP, which is your minimum viable product. I will touch a little bit more on that later. Vuuqa is just slowly getting up from stage 2 into stage 3, which is the growth stage. The growth stage is where customers and revenues are increasing with many new opportunities and issues. When I saw this, I really liked that they were honest when they said opportunities and issues, because it's not always it just felt like it really represented the reality of what is on the ground. In Kenya, they say kwa ground vitu ni different, right? So you're seeing some opportunities and you're like, okay, but there's also issues. You're starting to realize, how are you going to pivot or how are you going to make the necessary changes to make sure that your startup survives this stage? And into the, wow, I've just noticed that 4 and 5 are interchanged, but but the fourth is expansion. So just it's 4 and 5. Fourth is expansion. That is the right stage for 4. And this is a new period of growth into markets and distribution, into new markets and new distribution channels. I've just read on the comments that there are a few of us who are looking to expand into the rest of Africa. So now you would ideally be in the 4th stage, where you've kind of just mastered your local environment, and now you are confident enough to take it into new spaces. And then the 5th stage would be established. Now you can see words like mature and thriving, into a place into the market with loyal customers, right? And startup life has become routine. Now you still are a startup, right? But you are more comfortable and confident in the work that you do, and the processes are much more set in place. And the 6th stage is mature. Here you have year-on-year on sales, you have profits that are stable. And so you're probably not just breaking even, now you're into the profit stage. Your competition is fierce. People are coming in and trying to see what's going on with these people. How can we either disrupt what they're doing or just give them a run for their money? And then at this stage as well is where sales sometimes will either start to fall off, and that's when a decision will need to be made whether you want to exit. Like now you have raised your child. Think of your startup as the 18-year-old at this point, where they are now maybe going off to school or going off to live their adult life on their own, or are you going to expand and maybe your 18-year-old child is going to bring you more children. I don't know if that's an example that works. All right, and then the last step here is exit. Exit does not always mean that you're shutting down your business, but it can also mean that you've sold it. And now you're moving on to either a new opportunity. But most founders, including myself, looking forward to this stage where you can really cash in on all the work you've been doing. All right, guys. Now that we have a theoretical idea of what a startup is, I'd like for us to define what an African startup is. How's everybody doing? So an African startup is one that is registered and operates in Africa. I'm going to take this time to go and tell you what it's not. It's definitely not survival entrepreneurship. Survival entrepreneurship is when you are in business to do exactly that, to survive. I just need to make enough money to feed myself and to live. That's it. Beyond that, I'm not looking to expand. I'm not looking to grow. My job is just to be able to make myself money and then continue living my life. So that is not what we are calling a startup in this case. It's also not a side hustle. So as you can see on the left-hand side, entrepreneurship or startup life is a full-time job. It just means that it's, let's say, like raising a child. It's very demanding. You end up, you're spending so much of your time investing and figuring out what is it that this startup needs to be able to move through the stages that we had just, the 7 stages that we have just spoken about. Another thing that a startup is not is reselling a product. I know this is a famous way to make money within the continent. So for example, there's your Avon, there's Mary Kay, and I know the most recent and famous one in the market is Herbalife, for example. These are ventures that you can make money from, but they're not necessarily a startup, and I'll tell you why. So when you look on the left-hand side, an African startup, for you to say that you are an African founder, an African startup business owner, is that you are in the market looking to solve African problems that are being experienced by the inhabitants of this continent. Then your objective is to drive change that has impact and convenience on the African society. So I know there was, and the next thing is also around innovation and disruption. The other day I was listening to a podcast on just the startup culture within the continent. And one of the guys was saying that in emerging markets, which is third world countries, and I believe Africa falls into that space, is that you don't see a lot of disruption like you would see in the Silicon Valley. You don't see such disruptive kind of ideas. That's because by nature, we are creatives. So you'll see people being creative in what they're producing. Doesn't say that you can't be disruptive, but there's so many more opportunities that may not be considered disruptive in the sense of the West, but very innovative and creative and useful in solving problems locally. All right, so now we've come to the end of the first section, and I will be revealing yet another poll for you guys to please participate in. And this one is asking you that, where are you on the startup journey? So click on the poll button and just fill it in for me right now based on what we've covered, right? Are you an ideation stage? Are you still thinking about what you want to do? You haven't really formed it yet. Are you on startup where you have registered your company already, you're over here working? Are you on growth, which is where Vuuqa is, for example? Expansion, I know, again, somebody said they're in expansion, they're looking to go, they've already grown and established themselves. And there's mature. I did not put the option for exit because I'm just, okay, thank you guys. I can see the votes coming in. Welcome, Louisa. Welcome, Sekele. Fazi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ivan from Seattle. Mburani. Tefo from Cape Town. How's everyone doing? All right, cool. Thank you, guys. Okay, so that we can stay on time, I'm now going to move in to the second part of our class today, which is identifying digital market opportunities in Africa. So before I go deep, you ask why digital. The class was very specific. The title of the class was very specific when we said how to bootstrap and grow digital startups. Why digital? Because if we don't know it by now, the fourth industrial revolution is here. It's coming. It's a buzzword that is in politics. It's in the news. But I think Corona did play a huge role in just letting us know what is this fourth industrial revolution? What does it mean when I have to work from home and still my kids have to go to school and get and learn online? What does this 4IR mean really? How can we still function as a society but leveraging a lot of our activities digitally or online? And so we chose digital, and we are specifically focusing on the digital aspect of entrepreneurship. Why? Because it's convenient. Right? There's just easier access to market. With digital, you can see just by the attendance of this class that there are people logging in from all corners of the world. And some of you, where you're at right now, it's daytime. Right here, it's winter, it's cold. Some of you, it's already summer. And guess what? We are still experiencing the same class. And this is why digital works. This is the whole essence of 4IR in practice, right? So some cool statistics from the continent is that in Africa right now, there's an internet penetration rate of 39.3%. and a mobile penetration rate of 80%, which means we are connected, right? As emerging markets or as rural as we may be, we are connected. We have the capability to actually see what's going on globally, and that means there's opportunity for you to do business with anyone who is not necessarily geographically within geographic proximity to you. So the first step in identifying opportunities within the continent, or even just identifying opportunities, is you need to ask yourself, what problem are you solving? So I remember that when I first thought about going into the entrepreneur lifestyle and space, I remember speaking to some of my colleagues at work when I was working in corporate and just asking, like, what are you up to? What are you doing? And I knew that I wanted to start a business. I knew that I wanted to do something, but I just couldn't figure out how or what problem I was solving. And a lot of people were saying, why don't you do the chicken? Because I guess chicken was a famous thing that was happening, right? People were breeding chicken or rabbits or starting nail bars. And none of those things were speaking to me because I just didn't feel passionate enough about them. And I didn't think that I was necessarily doing anything revolutionary or solving any kind of problem with them. So this is a personal take and not not a jab at anyone who rears chicken. Shout out to you. So you want to ask yourself, what problem are you solving? So it could be in any industry. It could be in agriculture. It could be in healthcare, service delivery. It could even be in entertainment. For example, last year we visited Mthatha, which is the Eastern Cape in South Africa. And we were speaking to some of the locals there, and they're telling us how they don't have, for example, they don't even have a movie theater. Right, so they have to drive about an hour or two to be able to go to the movies, which means there is room for innovation when it comes to, for example, social and entertainment. There's young people there coming up every day, and they would like to have something to look out for, to hang out with their friends, and that's missing. So an entrepreneur in that space, or anyone who's outside, it would be creative of them, or almost even disruptive of them, to come and with solutions that can solve that. So there's also issues of logistics. I know that's a personal issue that Vuuqa struggles with all the time, where it's like, how can we move products within the continent? Like, our logistics system is fragmented. We trying to go from here even to Swaziland, which is within the country. There's just problems there. So when you are thinking, what problem am I solving? This is what you need to be looking at. The next question is, who are you solving the problem for? This is an important question, because you need to know, do they even need what you're offering? Because most times than not, people think that, wow, I have an idea. It's really great. It's just an inconvenience to me. And I think that actually most people might feel the same. And then you find out that they don't. They don't care about your idea, because they're actually fine in whichever spaces they are in, right? So ask yourself, this problem that I'm solving, do the people need it? And who is my target market? A big blunder that people do, and I fell victim to it a few times, was thinking that my friends or people that I know personally are my target market. And let me tell you something right now, that if that's the premise that you are using to build your business, you need to stop right now and actually go back and look at what is it that you're doing. Who is your target market? And the most important question is, can they pay for it? Can they pay for it? Are you going to be running a charity? And does that mean that you need donors so that you can provide your product or service? Or are you going to be providing a high-end product that needs to be bought once or twice a year, and you've made your margins, you're good to go? Or are you selling a product that is like a fast-moving good? So you need to find out who's going to pay for it, because this is going to impact your income, and it's going to impact your pricing, and it's going to impact the sustainability of your business. So key questions, even before you start getting into whatever space that you want to, please just find out, who am I solving this problem for? Cool. All right. So it sounds easy, right? Where you're just asking, okay, who can pay me? And who's my target market? But what's the practical way that you can actually do this? While looking at the continent, right? Again, I said that every single day I wake up, I feel like I'm surrounded by opportunity. Every single thing that I look at is an opportunity. It's just a matter of, do I have time, capacity, and enough passion to go about it? For example, my toothpaste. I can sit down here and confidently tell you that I don't know an African-owned toothpaste brand. Has nothing to do with digital, but there's an opportunity where as Africans, we are spending our money, we're making our money from outside, and then we're spending our money outside. So we're doing nothing for our economy. And how we are able to contribute to our economy is through finding solutions for our people by our people. So one of the easiest things to do is always think what's in analog right now and that can be transformed into digital. Right? So you find that probably the public transport system, you've seen people innovate this globally with the Uber, but what about something as simple as the taxi rank or the taxi system? How much data can be picked up from what they're doing? What benefits would it be to a driver of a matatu or a taxi to know how many trips they take in a day? How is their fuel? How are the fuel prices impacting their business? How many more trips can they take? Should they probably start earlier? When can they take breaks? And these are just insights that are easily available with the help of tech and digitizing products. So for you, when you're thinking about what kind of solution can I come up with, you want to think also what's analog. And to do this, you want to use your 3 key senses. So this is something that I guess would sound pretty obvious, but really just looking around you, your daily experiences, the experience of the people around you. What are you seeing? Where are you finding out that there are gaps, right? And then the second thing is listening. What are people complaining about? When you're hanging out with your friends in social circles, when you're at your workplace, when you're at home with your family, what are people complaining about? Because these are the keys where the people are essentially saying, crying for innovation, crying for creativity, crying for disruption. So every single time when you're in this class today, and every single time that you feel like you're sitting down and there's an issue that you can complain about, right? I want to challenge you to kind of switch your thinking into what solution can be implemented in this specific space, right? Because that's where innovation comes up. That's where innovation comes from. It's not from, people don't just wake up with ideas. It usually comes from, as I said earlier, solving a problem. Right? And even at the time that you get in front of funders and you're starting to talk to them, one of the biggest questions they ask you is, what problem is your business solving? And sometimes you're like, no, I just liked this thing. And they're looking at you like, okay, what's so disruptive, or what's so innovative, what's so creative about what you're doing? So the other sense that you should use is through speech. So you can listen and you can see, and then sometimes you'll just make an assumption, but you need to also speak to people. You need to understand what is your pain point. So I know a lady who tells stories of Africans within Nairobi, within Kenya, right? And I was asking her to be like, when you are giving a story, what does that guy even know where the story is? If I'm selling eggs, boiled eggs on the side of the street, right? Am I digitally connected? If you put my story online, how am I benefiting from it as the egg seller? Right? So you want to speak to him and ask him what would help you. When I put you up here, how is this going to benefit from you? Do you have access to it? Will you be able to share it with your people? Am I helping you, or do you actually need somewhere stable so that you're not moving around? And you only find out answers to these questions when you speak to people. So regardless of the industry that you're in, please don't be afraid of talking to people. You can talk to your friends, you can talk to your family, but I urge you to go beyond those comfort spaces. So, for example, let me check in. How's everybody doing? Okay, cool. All right. Is everything okay? Okay. So, for example, when we started Vuuqa, right, we had to literally go down. Just hang on a second. Is everything okay? Okay. We had to literally go downtown and speak to these vendors because we came up with this idea where we're like, oh my God, there's no centralized platform for people to buy African-owned products. So we want to create one. When we scanned our environment, this idea actually came up from my time when I was in school during the MBA, and people be like, are you from Kenya? I want this Kenyan thing, right? I want the Kenyan Maasai blankets that you can see behind me. This is what I want. How can I get it? And slowly, through listening and hearing that, I figured out actually what happens when you are in Zimbabwe and you want a product that is in Kenya. That's you basically, it seemed like you had no choice but to know somebody who was from the country in order for you to maybe find out if they were going to travel or come back with that thing, and that was your only option to get products within the continent. So that's some of the things where we're hearing that's what people are complaining about. When we were researching the feasibility, we literally went downtown Maboneng, I don't know if some of you know about it, and asked the vendors, how would you benefit from this product? How would you? So you need to be out there, you need to be on the field and use your 3 key senses of scanning your environment, listening to what people are complaining about, and actually researching the feasibility by talking to them. All right, that is the end of section 2. And right now, I actually have a question for you. These questions are up on the question box. So what challenges have you spotted and would love to solve and commercialize within the continent? Or what problem is your business or startup currently solving? To do this, I'd like to call one of you up with me on the screen to answer this question. Mr. Manzini, are you okay to come up on the screen? No, he's accepted. Okay, cool. Jill, have you been able to connect back? Connection is fine. Okay, cool. All right, guys, you can also answer the question. So if you haven't started a business, but you're thinking of one, my question to you is, what challenges have you spotted and would love to solve and commercialize within the continent? Welcome, Joe. Good stuff. And then if you have started one, my question for you is, what outsourcing mistakes have you made? How did you bounce back? Hi, Manzini. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Yourself?
I'm doing well. So thank you for coming.
Me?
We can see you. We can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay.
All right. So my question for you is, what challenges have you spotted and would love to solve and commercialize within the continent? And if you have started a business already, what problem is your business or startup currently solving?
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Manzini. I think like to start with just a background. I am a chartered accountant by qualification and a director of renewable power generation. where we deal with infrastructure projects around energy and water and sanitation. So we are already operating with a couple of projects.
Okay.
And I think for me, also responding to what you've been talking about earlier, the need for water and sanitation in the continent is common cause. We know it's there, so there is no real, So that's not the challenge. The challenge is about how do we in this current state incorporate IT and digitization into putting our message across, and that's number one from a marketing perspective, because from a marketing perspective, as it's mostly a civil service and a public service, you are speaking directly to governments or national departments and so forth and so on, and as well as operationally, how we, as far as implementation, monitoring, and reviewing of our solutions, how we put those into a digitized form. So how do we use social media for marketing? How do we use IT for implementation, for identifying areas with need, how we utilize IT and digital and the digitization as well for monitoring how our solutions are working, and as well for getting feedback from the services, from the people who are provided the services. So that's been a challenge to us. We're still trying to find a solution to that, but it's something that I would love to maybe put on the platform, because the need is there. Obviously, we know it. It's not just a South African need; it's a need throughout the continent. But how do we, for the lack of a better word, 4IR it?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Manzini.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
You're done. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming up and sharing your story with us. And I will be taking you off the screen right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Manzini. So that was Manzini. He was talking about his renewable energy business and how he is in an industry that works with governments, right? And as we know in our continent, governments can be very analog, right? And he's providing solutions for people that would most likely be in rural areas, for example. So how do we use, if we're talking about digital startups, how is he able to now implement tech, right? For example, for monitoring how the projects are going, how is the usage? What if one of his solutions breaks down? Would it have to be somebody coming in physically, checking it out, calling him? Or is there actually solutions in tech that can be used to monitor it so that he knows immediately and he can maybe even solve them without moving and necessarily physically being there? And those are the kind of stuff that you start to see in the continent that are now being called disruptive, right? Where I'm gone beyond offering renewable energy services, but now I'm also, it's the way that I'm implementing them. It's the way that I'm monitoring them. And it's the way that I've digitized my solution that is making me stand out from any of my competitors. So I hope that everybody who's listening is able to think through their current products or services, and just see how something as simple as, and just to make it clear, for example, renewable energy in this case could be solar panels, could be toilets, for people and making sure that the water is being recycled. And you think that that's something so manual, or solar panels, just the sun and the panel. But how can we implement tech to make the solution even better and more efficient for the people who need it? Cool. Thank you so much for that, Manzini. How's everyone doing? Did we get any questions from the people? No? Okay. Oh, there's a comment here. Our continent's visa and permit laws for non-citizens have as many startups drive to do business across borders. What advice do you have in navigating this obstacle? Cool. Thank you, Tafo. I've just read your question. What I am going to do is that I will complete the last section, which is the bootstrapping one, and then we'll come back and just have a conversation with everyone, go through the questions, and chat. Cool. All right. So now we are getting into the cracks of things, which is the bootstrapping in an African context. One of my colleagues helped me with the slides, and I really, really love this image here. It's just so powerful with the boots and the straps and practical. But yeah, we're here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Let's go. So bootstrapping, let's start by defining what bootstrapping is. How many of you have heard about the 3 Fs? Super kosher, but the first is friends, F for friends, F for family, and F for fools, right? So the 3 Fs is a concept that is usually tied into bootstrapping, because this is one of the first sources and resources that you use to get money to fund your startup or your idea. But my co-founder Chala actually defined it for us, and bootstrapping is the act of building a startup using personal finances of the founders. So there's no outside funding in the form of venture capitalists, angel investors, and bootstrapping essentially requires the founders to plow back the money that they've earned from customers into the business. This definition sounds so obvious that if you have a business, right, you should be using any money made and putting it back into the business. But funny enough, you will find that a lot of people maybe don't really have the discipline that comes with running a business. And so you find people taking out money from their business for themselves. What is going on? Just hang on a second, my screen went blank. All right, you'll find people taking in money for themselves, or you'll just find sometimes that you're not running the type of startup that is making money from the onset. So you're really struggling with the idea of how can I grow this venture if I don't even have money and I need money to grow it. And anyways, so that's why we're here today, and I'm going to introduce the Vuuqa 3-step bootstrapping approach. So it's 3 steps. The first is saving money. So you would ideally have come in with some money, you want to save it. And number 2 is to research before you outsource. And the third one is selling your skills as a service. I will dive deep into each one of this, starting with saving money. So there's always some sort of startup capital, right? When you start a business, you probably saved a little bit from your job, or you've made some kind of money. But how can you, when we say save money, how do we properly utilize this money so we're not essentially throwing it down the drain, and instead using it to grow and build our business? So the first is to start with your minimum viable product, typically known as your MVP. So every time you hear somebody say, oh, so what's your MVP? Do you have an MVP yet? What they mean is, do you have a product that, while you're trying to solve for this problem, it's in its simplest but most effective form, so that somebody can at least get the gist and the idea of what you're trying to do. So for example, Vuuqa, right? We had the website. It was just a website. It was 8 vendors, and all people could do was buy from these 8 people. And that was enough for us to show that, look, other than speaking of an idea, we actually have a practical platform that people can see and that we are calling our MVP. So that's your MVP. Think about it. What can you show people instead of just talking? What is something that you can create? Even if it's a service, how can you are planning to have this grand idea of a service with like 10 different elements. How can you implement the 2 most important ones, right? And just show how the entire system would work so that people can start really seeing your concept in real life and starting to buy into it. Other ways of saving money is, for example, avoiding getting office space. Now, this is a tricky one that has just been made that much more important with the corona pandemic, for example, where imagine if you are a startup and you had paid rent for a physical space. So rent is not necessarily going directly into the work that you're doing. It's not going into your product, and it's not going into your service. It is a cost that is just sunken each and every time because you're paying for space to be around. And when you're online with digital companies, is that sometimes the biggest asset that you need is internet access and a laptop or a desktop. So you might work from the field if you can connect to the internet, right? So instead of spending money, which I know many people immediately fall victim to, where I want to show that I'm a professional business. So I want to have an office space, and I want to have a company car. And I just want to have all these things that sometimes you are just throwing money away, especially when you are right at the onset of your business, where you still haven't fully established what it is that you want to do. It's bound to change. You're still at your MVP, and now you are using money that you could be plowing back into your business in ways that are just not sustainable. Which leads me to my third point: creating a lean business model that supports sustainability. So in startup culture and startup community, you hear the word lean a lot. So lean is the ability for a business to reiterate and change and adapt to whatever needs to be done to get to that startup into the next stage that it needs to go to and to grow. So, for example, when you are in an established business, right, you get to benefit from departments that have been set up already. You get to benefit from, if your laptop breaks down, you pick up the phone. Hi, IT, I need your help with my password. I forgot what password I set for myself. Immediately you think, I need a new resource in my company. HR, can you please hire this person? Operations. So that's just the ability in an established business. You, for example, if you're an entrepreneur, you can capitalize on those resources. But as a startup, You are the CEO, you're the founder, you're the admin, you are the sales, you're the marketing. And so you need to be able to create a sort of business, right, with structures that make your life a little bit easier, which leads me into my other point about using free digital tools for analytics, for creating marketing material, for promoting what you're doing, for distributing it, for creating kind of processes within your company, because you are spreading yourself into so many different directions. You need to be able to sustain what you're doing. And the beauty of tech and these tools is that they help you just make your work a lot more easier, right? So one of the biggest costs in a business as well is people, staff, right? I don't know how to do something, so I need to hire. And people are not going to work for you for free. But what happens when you need a certain skill that is missing within your company and you don't have the money to pay? So the beauty of startups is that sometimes you can offer equity in your company. Equity in this case is I'm basically selling a part of my dream to you in exchange for your skills. And equity does not mean that as a founder, maybe you're on 70% ownership and your other founder has 20%. You're now not giving something like 10%. It's up to your own discretion. You need to do the analysis of how beneficial is the service to me? How much do I need it? And then you decide, what am I willing to exchange? And if you are a shareholder in any company where you've bought shares, this is partial equity, where you kind of just some ownership, you've bought some money, you bought shares, gave them money, they're using your money to grow their business. So think about that when it comes to hiring, and when sometimes you just don't have the money to hire a full-time resource. And on that note as well, think about part-time. Sometimes you will have to hire, right? But maybe you can get someone on a contract basis, which leads us to our next point on outsourcing. At what point in your company do you outsource? Outsourcing is, I can't do the work myself, or I can do the work myself, but I don't have the time to do the work myself. So I need to hire someone, which is the outsourcing. You go and get someone from outside of your organization to help you with your work, right? But before you outsource, according to the Vuuqa 3-step approach, we have a couple of questions that we recommend you ask yourself. So the first one is, can I do it for myself? If I put my mind to it, can I do it? Because at this point, remember, we're trying to save money. We're trying to bootstrap our company. So we have to be very, very, very mindful and careful by the time that we are taking money out of our wallets and giving them to someone, because that is money that could have been used to purchase yet another asset in your company and grow your company. So you also want to ask, can I exchange services with other businesses instead of paying for them? So at Vuuqa, I know that I'm going to touch on this a little bit later as well. I know that there's a certain skill, for example, when it comes to finances, right? That we're not the strongest when it comes to that. So we need help, but we also don't have the luxury of hiring a full-time accountant. So what are we going to do? Who can we barter with? Who can we exchange services with instead of paying for them? Which means, what are we going to do within our company that we are good at? Another question to ask is that, is there a free tool I can use? Is there a QuickBooks free version that I can use for my business in the moment instead of hiring someone to do this strategically? And the biggest question is, do we have the money? Do we have the money that can pay the outsourced resource and keep the business going? Or, do we have money, but that money is actually for something else, and now we are wasting it on outsourcing. All right. So the third step in our approach is SaaS. If you are in IT, you probably typically know this as software as a service. Doesn't usually have all these S's and A's, but here we're talking about selling skills as a service, right? So with SaaS, it allows digital startups to sell their skills as a service to other businesses. This will enable them to make quick money and to grow and plow back into the startup without compromising their product or service. So that sentence on compromising your product or service has been underlined because that's the key here, where you can outsource your service, you can get paid for it, but you definitely don't have the liberty to forget what the core business you're in, right? You don't have the liberty to forget what you are solving, because sometimes you will be selling your skill and money will come in, and now you start thinking that that is your main business, and you forget that that's not the problem you're solving. That's not the people you are serving. This is just money you're earning to help you keep going. So for you to do that, how do we do that? We've come up with 3 ways. So you have to start by identifying the skills within your team. Or if you work alone, you actually have to do a self-skill assessment to find out, what am I good at, right? What can people pay me for other than my core product or service? The second one is Vuuqa TDS, which is try, do, and sell. I'll be talking about that. Very excited about it because it's something that we are proud of at Vuuqa, that we came up with, and it's been working for us. And the last one is creating balance between selling the skill and actually identifying the selling the skill and keeping the integrity of your product or service. So while identifying skills, you want to find out within your skill, what is sellable? This is a word we came up with. So all English majors, please give us a break. Ensure that your team share the same motivation and passion while you're identifying the skills. Because sometimes you'll be like, okay, you're good at designing. Why don't we outsource your designing skills, get some money to plow back into the business? And you find out that the person actually doesn't have the same commitment as you. They came to do your core business and they're getting irritated that you're asking them to do something that they don't believe is within their mandate. So there needs to be some very good amount of synergy in this state where you are open and you're saying that this is some of the ways that when we sell the skill, then you're able to bring in money that will help us continue with our goals. So the try, do, sell is that if you can do it for yourself, you can definitely do it for others. Under try, as an alternative to outsourcing, for example, you learn how to do it yourself. So for example, at Vuuqa, we were creating newsletters, right? We had somebody who was creating newsletters for us and they were engaging. And through that, we did it for ourselves really well, to a point that people are reaching out to us and asking us, who's doing this work for you? Who is helping you with this? And this is where we're like, oh, wow, with the great reviews and inquiries, how long does it take us to create a newsletter? This is a skill that within our company, it came a little bit easy to us, so we're able to sell it. So for you, when you're listening to this class and thinking, what am I good at? But what I urge you to do is you need to try it, and you need to do it really well. Try and master it. Try it once, twice, maybe 3 times, and keep doing it, perfecting it, and then seeing who else can you do it for. The last one is creating balance. So SaaS and focusing on your core business at the same time can be exhausting. And this is like from real life experiences where you're wondering, how am I going to manage exactly what I came here to do, solving my problem, but also being able to this SaaS is bringing revenue that's helping me bootstrap my company. So how do I balance the two? It can easily steer you away from your core business. So the first thing to do is to check for capacity. You need to be able to speak to your team, and you need to ask them if they're good to go with the business. What kind of work do you have already in the pipeline? And I like the point here on don't be greedy. Because sometimes the money is coming in and now you want to be greedy and take more and more, and you are exhausting your physical self and you're not going to be able to give your best to your work. And learning how to say no, this is just a skill that you need to learn in your life, regardless of what can I take in, what have I seen that is lying within my capabilities, and what do I have to be like, you know what, that's not going to work for me. So check for capacity, streamline your processes, which is documenting and project planning. When you have at least 3 to 4 things that you're doing in your business, even if you're not doing the try, do, sell, you find out, as I said earlier, that you're the CEO, you're the marketing, you are HR, you're IT, you need to have crazy, amazing project planning skills, because that's the only way you're going to see any kind of movement in what you're doing. So you're setting up, you're literally going down to the day of Monday, I'm going to work on this and I'm going to complete it. So these processes just help you to see movement at your work, creating templates, so that each single time, if there's an email that you send to contact a client, a potential client, the first time, then you can make it a template where you just replace the first name with the new client and the words, so that you're not sitting down and racking your brain all the time. Every single time you have to contact a new client, you're spending the exact amount of energy that's actually wasting time and not being very productive in your business. So templates are here to save you time. And the last one and most important one that we take very, very seriously at Vuuqa is rest. Right? So to avoid exhaustion, you need to remember to rest, right? You need to rest, because without rest, you are not going to be creative, and you are actually wasting time, and time is money, so you're also wasting money. So I work 6 days a week. I've chosen 1 day a week where I will be resting. Sometimes it's Saturday, sometimes it's Sunday. But because I'm an entrepreneur, sometimes it's Monday and sometimes it's Wednesday. But what I'm trying to say is that I choose 1 day of the week where I just completely turn off and rest and try and re-energize myself, so that I have enough oomph and power to keep moving. All right, guys, we've covered all 3, and now we're going into the case study. Just want to check in with you guys. How's everybody doing? Safeguard your startup. Awesome. Source from affordable. Okay. Cool. All right, guys, I'm watching the time. We are at 1 hour and 10 minutes, so we have 20 minutes to go. I am going to go through the case study real quick. The case study is great because it's just going to tie up everything that we've been talking about, and then we'll give you time to talk to everybody. Cool, let's go. So the case study is about a company called Vuuqa. Vuuqa is a digital navigation agency for African-owned brands and businesses, right? And at Vuuqa, we provide digital platforms for African-owned brands and businesses where they can showcase and promote their products and services. They also provide digital navigation advisory services for African brands and businesses. So this is just a little bit of a background of who we're talking about and how this case study is going to apply. Their main platforms are the online marketplace and the Vuuqa Lifestyle eMag. And the team structure within the company is that they have 2 co-founders who are both MBA graduates. They have 1 creative director who's a BSc graduate. They've been funded by savings of the co-founders as well as money from friends and families, which, as I said earlier, is bootstrapping. All right. But this company also has challenges. When they started, guess what? They don't have funding. So they don't have a big amount of money that they can just dip into to do whatever they want when they're trying to grow. There's a skills shortage, right? Their business model when they started, it was based on volume. So it had to be a whole lot of people buying things before they could make any kind of money. And they also needed money to market, for paid ads, for software, and just to live. So what do? All right. So the first lesson, and let's say maybe mistake, because we were trying to be politically correct with the word lesson, but the first mistake here was when we got into the game, my co-founder and I were, we had no background on any kind of social media or SEO, no professional background. So we were like, you know what, we're just going to outsource. We need to find someone who is going to give us this great social media presence, who's going to do SEO for us. SEO is search engine optimization, to make sure people can easily find us. And guess what? This wasted so much of our money, right? Because we hadn't done any research at all. So we've hired somebody to do something for us, but we don't know how to monitor what they've done, which means we don't know how to calculate our return on investment. We don't know how to say, when we put our money here, this is what it gave us, and so it's beneficial to us. So what are we doing? It's basically like we're throwing money into the trash, right? We hadn't researched on any free tools that could help us to do the exact things that we wanted. And the worst of all is that we had no appetite to learn. We were too focused on our product, which means we were like, we need to find somebody who will do this work for us. This mentality is mainly found in people who have had background in corporate, because as I said earlier, you've come from a space where there are departments that handle things that you are not used to handling. So obviously, when you start your business, you're also thinking you're a big shot, you're a big guy, you know, you're like, I'll hire and I'll get people to do this for me. But what a tough lesson that was. So how did we now start applying what we've been talking about throughout this class, right? Our first step was to identify skills. Right, so we got into a position where we recruited our creative director, who is a front-end developer. His name is Mangoba. You can see his image right there, right? And in exchange for his fantastic skills, right, we provided equity. So he is a shareholder of Vuuqa right now. He owns part of the company, and we believe that this is such a useful investment for us because it's skills in exchange for equity. And with his entry into the company, we were able to turn our entire marketing strategy dreams into a reality. The second is to, as I said, step one, identify skills. We conducted a skills audit. Now that Mangoba had joined the group, we realized that we have strong strategy skills from our background, our educational background, strong copywriting skills, strong design skills. And this is where we were able to, and our project and management skills were also out of this world, right? That's how we're identifying, okay, now we're starting to know the landscape of Vuuqa. What are we good at? What can we what can we give? What can we use to make money that will plow back? And then, as I mentioned earlier, is that we were missing the financial skills, right? What we did is we bartered with our financial manager for and he needed marketing and strategy services. So we exchanged the services. So typically we probably have to pay anywhere from 20,000 rands and up. And we didn't have money for that, but we were able to exchange value that's equal. And this relationship is ongoing. So it's a barter trade back into the old school way before money was here. The second thing is, how did we implement our try, do, sell model? Now that we've identified our skills, we decided to sell our strategy and design skills. So a little bit of a pivot in the company, right? We have email marketing, we have LinkedIn, we have brand strategy and design. These are stuff that we're very strong at Vuuqa, and we're able to provide to other businesses, and have actually created a whole entire stream within our digital transformation pillar. We updated our business model, and now we no longer keep the product, so we don't have to pay for a warehouse. We implemented the drop shipping, and we have consulting. So all these activities are just helping Vuuqa have enough money to run on its own and even take care of our day-to-day expenses, to live our lives as entrepreneurs, which is the last point of creating balance. So that money has been able to even help us come up with our digital magazine and our online place, and that's how we continue to grow. So that's it for the case study and how it applies to the lesson that I had today. And now it is time for the questions. Just want to know, I'm going to go into the questions that I had seen here. Okay. So the first question was, what outsourcing? Oh, that's this question that we asked. How would you deal with business decisions? This is a question from Tepsile. How would you deal with business decisions driven by gut feeling? This is a major challenge for most businesses in Africa. Generally, no research or planning is done. Wow. Yeah. As we said in the class, is that you definitely need to do the research. And just for a note, like, research is ongoing. We also do research all the time. For example, we had our first masterclass on this platform. We had it on the free version. We did as much research as we could, but somehow in our research, we forgot to see that the free version only gives you 30 minutes. So guess what? 30 minutes into our session last time, our class dropped, right? And we had to go back and do research yet again to come and see that, okay, maybe we need to pay for it, so that, look, here I am at 1 hour and 17 minutes still speaking to you, and there've been no interruptions. So all I'm trying to say is that research is ongoing. Please love research, enjoy it, implement it into your lives, because it will save you so much. Gut feelings are great. They're just the onset of your idea, but you need to back it up by the 3 senses that we spoke about. Are you listening? Are you asking? Can you see what is happening around you? Because a gut feeling can only be, it's just that. But without research, you might end up pretty messed up. Thank you, Tabsilia, for your question. I hope I've answered it. So, where's the question? Okay, I'm just going to go down in our continent's visa empowerment laws for non-citizens hampers many startups' drive to do business across borders. What advice do you have in navigating this obstacle? This is a question from Tefo. My biggest answer to this is you need to, again, use digital platforms to speak to people and make connections. For example, LinkedIn. You're looking to do business with somebody you're in South Africa, you're looking to do business with somebody in Tanzania or Rwanda. You've heard about Rwanda, they're doing really good in their space right now, they're growing, and you want to do business. But you're thinking about visas and all of this stuff, and you don't even know where to start. But guess what? There's an entire platform like LinkedIn where you can literally filter down your answers by location, by the title. You need to, and you can reach out to them and go back to basics, your relationship building. Be honest, say, hi, how are you? I want to connect with you and speak to you about X. The beauty about this is that you're not spending money on flights. You know, if this person rejects you and doesn't like how you're approaching them, then you have options to go to another person. But this is the power of digital platforms. Where, and now that you've gotten that connection, and let's say everything goes well, you're able to speak to them and find out how's the landscape there. You know, you find out that maybe they have a cousin who travels in and out quite a bit. If you needed to move any kind of stuff, and this is MVP. I'm not promoting that this is your entire business of shipping things through people traveling, but this is your MVP. You're able to just test, and you're using ways that government has not caught up yet, but you're still able to get into that space where you can still find out and communicate with your brothers and sisters in the continent using digital platforms. All right, Tefo, I hope I answered your question. I'm going to go to the next one. Greetings from Buzzers in Kenya. How do you go about approaching a market segment or industry that is highly undocumented digitally? Kibe, this is a question from Kibe. Thank you so much for your question. This is actually the work that Vuuqa is trying to do, getting us as a continent online. We need to be documented. We need to be found. You need to talk about the things that you're doing online so that people like Kibe can find you when they need to find you. But okay, if it's a market segment or industry that's undocumented, I think you would, again, just have to go back into that kind of old school, pick up the phone and speak to people, right? And just be like, how can I get somebody's contact? I'm looking for someone who is in an area that probably doesn't have Wi-Fi, but I can actually call somebody. How am I going to do that? And then again, use the pointers that we've talked about in the business. Ask them, you might think that you have a solution that will help them, but really engage with them and see, is it going to be helpful? Are you willing to pay for it? Or who would pay for it? Do they want it? You know, so it's the same kind of thing, even though it's not digitally, the same kind of concept applies of doing the research, doing the communication, and constantly. And then also maybe setting up processes that can help, once you've established that initial connection, that can help you continue communicating. Maybe getting them to download WhatsApp so that you can speak to them, right? So Kibe, I hope that answered your question. I'll move on to the next one. We're a leather goods manufacturing startup. My question is, how do you digitize the customer experience? What? How do we digitize the customer experience when we have seen that much value and sales are derived from feeling and touching products? Wow, that's a really good question, because you're right. There are products that will sometimes be highly, highly dependent on the touch and feel. But the beauty of tech is incredible. Like right now, I've just read the news that I can literally go on a tour of the Eiffel Tower in Paris from my home. So there's this kind of 3D experiences online. You are able to use your words, communication. Like for example, leather. I know there's different grades of leather, right? There's things that people who shop online have learned how to look out for them, right? They've learned how to look out for certain things so that they know if what they're buying is quality. And you need to answer those questions. You also need to engage with your customer base to say, okay, when you're seeing and touching this, what kind of words online, what kind of words would help give you the satisfaction that it is the quality that you want? Are you writing the grade? Are you writing the color? Are you writing like how long it was cured? Can you tell them that maybe it will come with a sample at some point. Maybe you're shipping samples, just being creative around that. And as opposed to trying to say that my business is highly dependent on touch and feel, you're trying to maybe embrace, how can I divert this exact same experience online? All right, so there's 1, 2, 3, wow. Okay, there's quite a number of questions. I'm going to take a break from the questions for just a second and go back to a few offers that we have for you guys, just in case there are a few people who would like to drop off at the 30 minutes. But if you have time, please stay on with us. We have covered most of the stuff that we wanted to. This is going to take me an extra 5 minutes, and I'll come back to the question. Everybody good with that? Thumbs up. All right, so we did give you the case study about Vuuqa, but Vuuqa is actually a real company that exists. It's my company. It's the company that has brought this lesson to you today. So we provide global access for African-owned brands and business through digitally curated platforms. And today we have a few special offers for you. So we've been speaking about our Vuuqa Lifestyle eMag, which is a monthly digital publication that brings for you curated digital African stories from the world, and our ebook from our first masterclass, which was on how to create an online experience for your business. So what is the offer? On the Vuuqa Lifestyle eMag, there's an opportunity to advertise. We have a database of over 20,000, and on there, the beauty of how our eMag is distributed is that right now, traditional media type of spaces are they're blocked, right? When you're a small business and you're coming in, the prices don't really match what you're trying to do, or they're just accessing a really huge database of people who you don't really want to get to. But we are capitalizing from our distribution channels of our emailing list, which includes everybody who's in here. It includes people from the diaspora, and we are distributing it through WhatsApp. So when this magazine is getting into the hands of your potential customer, right? So we have a full page ad, you can see there, or a half page ad, but the biggest one here is actually a feature where we tell your story, because you know the big traditional media companies, sometimes they'll just be like, your story is not big enough for us. But what happens? Does that mean that nobody can read about you? The beauty is how we curate and tell this story and actually put it in a light and in a position that people can know about you. You get to keep the digital copy and obviously send it towards your ecosystem, and they can also learn about you in a different format. The cool thing about what we're offering is that it's with it, when you decide to get this offer, it will expire. It expires on July 1st, but we will give you an extra month free. Cool. And then the ebook, which is the previous masterclass, is going for 50 rands. It's sold online. Our banking details are here. All this info will be sent to you. I just wanted to speak through it, but the cool thing is that you'll be able to see our info on how to create an online experience for your business. So before we go back to the questions, I would like for you guys to please help us with a couple of things, which is answering the next few polls that we have. So the first one is, how did you find the class? So the questions, go back to the poll tab. The one is, it's either super informative or it was just all right. It's okay. We want to know from you, because once we know this information from you, we'll be able to know how we can improve. Then the other question is, would you recommend Vuuqa to a friend, the masterclasses to a friend? So there's definitely, or you're not sure yet, that's okay. And the last question is, what other topics would you be interested in learning? So we've given you a few options there, which is 1, how to sell on WhatsApp, how to market on LinkedIn or email marketing. All these polls are online. Please, we would really appreciate if you gave us your feedback. I'm about to go back into the questions right now. But yes, while you're listening in, please give us your feedback. Give us your feedback. The polls are up, they're running, and I'll go back into the questions. Click onto the poll tab, as you've seen. All right. Just give me half a second. What did you say? Consultation. All right. While you're filling that in, just remember that we're also open to consultations. If you want to speak to us, we will be sending your information. You can email us, you can WhatsApp us. And if you have any other questions, because I'm going to go back to, but in case we don't cover all of them, please. Guys, thank you so much. I'm seeing all the comments. I really appreciate all of you coming on here today and supporting us. This has been amazing, and we're extremely grateful. I'm going back to the questions now. I'm going back to the questions. Where did we stop? Chat, use the chat box. Let me know how much. Okay, I think I'm skipping one. How much equity did you give? We gave. That is. Okay, how much equity did we give? So that's confidential, but I will say it was somewhere between 1% and 10%. I hope that helps. Yeah. And the agreement was that as time goes and as we grow, there's options for it to increase. From the case study, how were you able to convince brands to move from consignment to just-in-time distribution, not having to hold stock, especially when most entrepreneurs are just trying to get by? Funny enough, we also thought that we would get a lot of backlash from moving to shipping your own products, but the majority of the suppliers and the businesses on our platform were actually happier with this option, because when you sell on Vuuqa, we don't stop you from selling anywhere else, which means that a lot of them already had established distribution agreements within their own company. So for them with Vuuqa, it's just another source of sales coming in, and they want to know about it, which worked out great for both of us. For the case study, okay. How do we create an environment as African startups to work together and collaborate? This is something, in my view, that is lacking. We tend to be in competition with each other, even if we're not in the same field. How do we address this? That's a question. All right, so for what can I say here? Charity begins at home. The change begins with you looking at the man in the mirror, Michael Jackson. It's all about you. What do you do? I can see there's a global conversation going on right now around Black Lives Matter, African Lives Matter. You know, questions on racism, how are they impacting people, feminism, women's rights, and all of these things. For me, and my personal opinion, is that it starts with you. And it starts with your environment, without even thinking of it in a macro scale. It's how are you acting? How are you behaving? How are you influencing your kids, your wife, your husband, your mother? How are you changing what is within your vicinity that you can control? And just like a wildfire, it's going to spread. If your kid knows that, if your kid is sold onto collaboration, your kid is sold on to healthy competition and not distractive or putting someone down, then guess what? The next person they interact with, it becomes infectious. They start to do that. So for me, it's that when you're faced with such things, is that don't try and go global and, you know, Obama peacemaker, right? Like, just try and start here between your environment, and slowly that energy is able to spread around. Hope that helps. And that's for everybody in here. Since you know this question is disturbing a lot of our industries, please, the change starts with you. I hope that answers. Please let me know. The next one is, on the point of reselling a product, does this apply to products from any business? For example, selling African hair products, getting suppliers but manufacturing myself. What then if my business relies on the supply chain? Wow, I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding this question. Okay, let me read it again. Should you get suppliers or should you manufacture it yourself? It depends. It depends. Do you want to be identified? I think the supplies matter. The supply question matters is, are you sourcing for your products in the continent? Do you want to be identified as an African-owned business? Is it just one ingredient that you maybe need from outside the continent? Those are some of the main questions that you want to ask. And then, yeah, maybe you're going to do the final assembly, or maybe you're going to get a raw product and put your branding on it. So I was having a little bit of a hard time understanding your question, but I think that I hope that the few things that I've said have helped you think around it, where it just depends on where you want to stand in terms of your brand identity. Do you want to be somebody who is the originator, the creator, or do you want to be the one who's just adding value? Which both are way okay. Okay. How do you decide on how much equity to forego? Okay, that is based on the skills and what you have available. And honestly, sometimes equity can just seem like an empty thing. But guess what? When your company is blowing up and the money is big, 7% can be 7% of 7 million, and that's a whole lot of money. So for you, you need to decide what does that mean for you, and just be very flexible. I promote openness and integrity. Have that conversation, have that discussion, give that person enough room to also tell you if that's something they're comfortable with, or if they prefer if you upgraded their equity. So just be honest. This is something that would be highly dependent on the conversation you have with the person. And even if they are willing, they probably, sometimes maybe they don't want to be a part of your company. We've had that happen to us, where we tried to offer equity to someone and they were like, nah, I just want money. It happens. So how can one support from the diaspora, like being involved in the business in exchange for equity or investing in one? For the rest of the question, guys, we are 7 minutes past time, and really enjoyed having you guys, and you've been so engaging. But as I said, our lines are open for all these other questions to come through. Please reach out to us. Let us know if I've seen this one. I think it's diaspora related, the opportunities that you want to come into. You want to, yeah, these are the type of, how can you support? Oh my God. From the diaspora. I love questions from the diaspora because it means that you still valuing your roots. You still want to invest. And guess what, guys? We're having such a hard time securing funding from people within the continent, from people outside. So for you, sometimes being a funder, being an angel investor, even if you're not giving money, sometimes you're giving advice. You need to just start looking at, okay, how can I help these businesses, you know? Really start to look at that, because we depending on you, because the other people are not looking at us. We're not qualifying for them, you know? So there are people out there, as you said, who want to help, but they just don't know where to start. So maybe start with Vuuqa. And continue subscribing to our eMag. You'll find out we're always telling different stories about different businesses on there, and you can get it. Wow, guys. Once again, thank you so much. Asante sana, Giabonga. Please let me know, reach out to us an email, that's info@vuuqa.com. We will be sharing, we have all your contact details. If we don't have it, please get onto our website and subscribe, or email, WhatsApp us, but we would love to hear from you. I hope you answered the polls on what kind of other stuff you want to see. We depend on your feedback. We depend on your promotion. Remember that they are Africans doing great things, including yourselves. And it's up to us to love ourselves and promote ourselves and buy from ourselves and value ourselves. And there will also be, yes, you can share your podcast. If you want to share, if you want to speak to the people on the group, please do. But there'll also be options to, we'll be sending our eMag out. Please make sure that you get that. And yes, Ivan, hearing that I need to call you up. Where are you? All right, guys. So right now it's kind of free flowing. Thank you so much. If you think that you want to exit and you gave me your time on Thursday, we appreciate you. And thank you so much. I'm seeing all the comments. Oh, guys, thank you. I appreciate it. Asante sana. Yeah.
Hey, Horesia.
Hi, Ivan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
What's up?
Nothing. Just trying to work here and also listening to the masterclass. Thanks for putting it on. It was a lot of great information.
Thank you, Ivan. Where are you logging in from?
From Seattle, Washington.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's about 10:40 in the morning here. Logged on at about 9 a.m. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you wanted to share your podcast with the people? Maybe
Yeah.
you can tell them what it's about.
Yeah, definitely. So I host a podcast with a friend of mine who's Gambian, and we're both out here in Seattle in the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
The issues we talk about are surrounding mainly either issues going on the continent or kind of similar to what you were talking about, how people, might want to go home and get into the startup world or into whatever world it may be. And so
Cool.
our conversations are focused around just giving other people the platform to, speak about whatever they need to, whether that's their business, whether that's their creative side. And it's definitely a balance between seriousness and fun.
What's the name of your podcast?
The podcast is called The Jola Meets the Madi. It's available on all platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts and Google Breaker, all that.
Dope. Please share the link so that everybody can get a chance.
Yeah,
and
I'll put in the comments.
And anybody else who wants to, we have literally like maybe 10 more minutes. It's just I think this is a good idea Chola's come up with. Share the link as well, Ivan. Just not the name, the link,
Okay,
if you can. Yeah, and anybody else wants to come up and maybe just advertise, tell us what you're doing, speak to people. There's an audience here of people from all over the world. Thank you so much, Ivan.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. I've listened to your podcast, so I can advocate for it, and I enjoy it very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So, thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Wow, nobody else wants to come on. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Franz. Thank you, Jill and Motsepeng. Wow, guys. All right. We're going to call it a wrap. And the replay, we're going to have the replay up. We're going to send it out to everybody. Remember to join our spaces, and that's it for us.
Oh, James would like to come on.
James?
Yeah.
Where is he? Let me see. I can't see the name.
Are you serious?
You guys are being loud. Okay, I can't see the name. James, please text. There are people saying they want to come in. Oh. Okay. Thank you, Mercy. Zach has a great business called Umsoko Eatery, providing essay food. Umsoko is accepted and connecting. Okay, cool. Oh, there's one. Come on. Hi, Jane.
Hey,
We just have Jane.
here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
I'm doing well. Tell us what business you have or what venture you have, what you'd like to advertise, or did you just have comments, whichever it is.
I'm into coaching and leadership coaching, especially for startups. I wanted to suggest two things. First, I think it's important for everyone to get a book called The Lean Startup Way. I don't know if any of you have read it. The basic concept is when you're starting the startup, you need to start small, think big, move fast. It should drive every single thing that you're doing as a startup. That you should, when you're starting, you should know where you're going, but you should always start small and be prudent when you're starting off. Another thing I wanted to suggest. I have a bit of a giveaway. I want to give 50% off a book. It's called The Great CEO Within. If somebody goes on Amazon, they buy the book, they make a commentary, they hit me up, I'll pay them back 50% of the fee they pay for the book. I think it's going to be great for them. It's going to help everybody out. I'll cap it at 100 people. So the first 100 people to do that.
How much is the book?
It should be about $10.
Okay, cool. Please
On
send
Amazon.
the link. James is offering to pay 50% if you buy the book on Amazon. First 100 people, right?
Yeah, first 100 people. I think it's gonna help everybody out a lot. I'm looking for the link on Amazon. I'm gonna share it.
Okay, please do. Guys, awesome opportunity. Go ahead.
So I'm just typing it. I'm sharing the link. If we get enough people, I'll speak to the author of the book and get him to have a sit down with us. So people can send questions through that they want to ask him, and then we can do a one-on-one session with him.
Fantastic.
But I'll pay 50% back off for the first 100 people who buy the book. I think it's going to help them a lot in building their startups.
Thank you so much, James. We appreciate that very much. Guys, there's an offer for you there.
I'll just give everybody my email so that they can just, I'll type it in as well. So they can just hit me up if they buy the book, and then I'll just do a quick refund.
Sounds
wherever
great.
They are. Yeah.
Sounds great. Asante sana. Okay.
You're welcome.
I'm calling Jane up now. Jane. Okay. Guys, the offer was to get the book with the link that James put up. And he is essentially saying that if you purchase the book, the first 100 people. This book is helpful for startups and anybody trying to get into that space. He's also provided his email address. He will pay you back 50%. So you basically get this book for 50%. If you're about that, get on that offer. And he seems to be in control. Waiting for Jane to come up on the screen. Jane also has something she'd like to share. It's just busy connecting. But after Jane, that will be the last person for real. Wow. Okay, let me read the comments.
Hello.
Jane. Thank you, MJ.
Okay.
Hi,
can you hear
Jane.
me?
How are you? Yes, I can hear you. Jane, we can hear you. Talk to us. Tell Jane we can hear her.
The sound just went.
We can hear you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry from my side, it just went a bit quiet. My name is Jane Mushweshwe. I'm a co-founder and an owner of a leather manufacturing company. So it's called Jalat Africa, but we also have created a separate company called the Zir Leather brand, which obviously helps us to we manufacture leather bags and accessories, so leather bags, backpacks, and wallets. You can check us on Instagram, on Twitter, as well as Facebook. And we are a truly African brand. And the whole idea around our business is really wanting to create a brand that is authentically African. And in terms of accessories, we focus even on our leather hides coming from Africa. So that's basically what we do. So what we're looking for right now is really opportunities to export outside of Lesotho and South Africa, which where we currently base, and where we can other opportunities for resale and partnering with other startups in the African continent, and outside of that.
Oh no.
And access to market and opportunities to sell what we actually produce. So that's basically where we are and what we're looking for.
Nice. Thank you, Jane. Please share your Instagram link and everybody will be able to check you out and collaborate with you. Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you, everyone. That is the end. Thank you for interacting. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for this new session that we just haphazardly came up with to get people to advertise what they're doing. This is everything Vuuqa is about. So we're so happy that you're able to share your stories with us. And last time, for real, that's it from us. We're out. Thank you. Goodbye. Wait.